Welcome back, survivor. If you can hear this, it means you're still alive. This is Jack's Nightmares, and this is your next story. The wall's bigger than I remember. Not taller, just heavier. Everything about it feels like weight. Buses laid on their sides, their windows welded over with scrap siding and refrigerator doors. Vans stacked on top, wheel wells filled with cinder blocks and poured dirt. Whole layers of tires wedged into the gaps, some of them packed so tight they've started to rot and split. At the top, chain-link fencing runs edge to edge, woven through with rebar and glass bottles on wire that'll rattle if anything brushes past. Down low, a rusted sedan is jammed into the base as a wedge. The whole outer wall leans forward just slightly, like it's bracing for impact that hasn't come yet. The paint on the outer panel is faded but clear enough. Do not approach. Letters hand-brushed in red, now brown from wind and rain. I stare at it while my hand slides under the bus frame to the buzzer. Press once, short pause, then again. My glove vibrates from the cheap little speaker inside. Nothing moves. I keep my eyes on the shooting slit in the siding. Just a slit the width of a phone, covered from the inside. No sound. The air out here smells like burnt plastic and the last of the wet leaves. When the speaker finally cracks on, the voice is static shredded. I give my name and the number we agreed on. Back when the camp still acted like it was in charge, and we thought radios and perimeter patrols meant something. There's a pause. Then I hear him. Dean. My brother. He says my name once. Careful, like he's not sure it's real. Like saying it too loud might make me vanish. The slit opens. Just a pair of eyes. Narrowed. Then the latches on the gate shift. I hear metal grind. The sound of two deadbolts moving in opposite directions. A square panel opens wide enough for one person to step through sideways. I go in without saying anything. My boots hit clean concrete. Behind me, the panel slams shut and locks again. That sound carries in my ribs. The world outside cuts off like it was never there. 3 guards move in around me. They're armored up in old riot gear, stitched together with duct tape and zip ties. One of them's wearing a baseball catcher's chest plate over a postal jacket. Another has homemade shin guards welded from car parts. All of them carry shotguns. Not one of them speaks. Not one of them lowers their barrel. Dean steps forward. He's not wearing a helmet. Beard's short now, neater than I expected. Lines under his eyes say he hasn't been sleeping. He looks at me like he's trying to decide whether to believe it. No handshake, no hug, just a nod. Good, I wouldn't have taken a hug. You made it, he says. You kept the lights on, I answer. He gives this half laugh, like someone remembering a joke with no punchline. Then he raises a hand and signals the others to ease off. One shotgun dips. The one near my boots doesn't. I count 6 guards total. 2 on the walkway overhead. 1 on the roof of a garage, with binoculars tracking the street behind me. They're all dialed in. Everything about this place says tight discipline, 0 tolerance, and no second chances. It's not warm, it's not welcoming, but it's working. That's more than I expected to find. I follow Dean down a lane that used to be Maple Circle. Lawns are gone. Dirt beds hold potatoes and cabbage. PVC hoops carry clear plastic to hold a bit of heat. Driveways have been turned into cages with welded mesh. Chickens cluck and peck at piles of weeds. A truck bed holds rain barrels tied down with ratchet straps. The cul-de-sac island is a watch post now. Sandbags set 3 layers deep and a ladder to a little tower made from streetlight poles. Wind spins a turbine someone built out of a bicycle rim and sheet metal. It squeals and then settles. A kid stares at me from behind a mesh gate. He does not smile. I do not smile either. Meredith meets me near the community center, which used to be a house with a 3-car garage. She wears a canvas jacket and carries a clipboard with duct tape down the spine. Her boots are clean. She shakes my hand, firm grip. She looks over my gear without being rude. "You're late," she says. I nod. Road was busy. She points to a signboard with rules. No fire outside marked pits. No movement after dark without pass. No trading without receipt. No private wells. Masks during burn days. Quarantine tent for all newcomers. You know the drill, she says. I know it. I say I will work for my place and ration. She says, good. Dean says you can handle perimeter. We need that. I get a bed in a room that used to be a home office. The window is sealed with plywood. There is a cot, a blanket that smells like soap, and a crate for a nightstand. On the wall hangs a map sketched by hand. Streets marked in black, known herds marked in orange, loot routes in green, patrol zones in blue. Our neighborhood sits in the middle like a tooth with deep roots. I run my finger along the south line, the creek, the playground, the old sewer tunnel behind the swings. Still there. Good. Dean brings me a bowl of stew, beans, and a shard of something that had once been meat. You look smaller, he says. I eat half, then cover the rest with a tin plate. Road took some weight, I say. He waits for me to talk. I do not. He asks where I slept most nights. I point to the map. Not far. You stayed close? He asks. Close enough, I say. He watches me for a long time. I can feel the questions stacking up behind his eyes. He lets them sit there. Meredith wants you on nights. You good for that? I nod. He reaches for my rifle and pauses, waiting for permission. I lay it across his hands. He checks the action, looks at the 3 rounds, gives it back. I'll get you more, he says. I'll make it work, I answer. I do a walk around the inside of the wall with a guard named Elena. She points out the kill lanes they cut by dragging cars into parallel lines outside the wall. Any herd that follows the sound will funnel there and stack up. We have a fire barrel mounted on a trolley so we can pull heat along the top of the wall and draw infected to a spot where we can drop bricks or stab through slits. Tripwires hung with bells run between oak trunks. A small shack on the north corner holds a water pump and an old pool filter. The water runs clean enough to boil once and call it good. The generator sits in a cage with chain and 2 locks and a posted schedule for hours. 2 solar trees keep the radios charged. The towers hold walkie repeaters with car batteries that we swap every morning. Nothing fancy. It works. I sleep 2 hours and wake at dusk. The light fades fast behind the roofs. I gear up. Black coat, black tape over anything shiny. Hatchet across my back. A length of steel rod with a sharpened point. Crossbow with 4 bolts. Wire cutters in my pocket. A pouch of nails. I move toward the south tunnel that used to be a storm drain. I slide the grate and drop down. Smell of wet concrete and old soil fills my nose. My shoulders brush slime and brick. I move slow to avoid noise. I come out past the old playground, now a tangle of ivy and plastic. I keep low among the shrubs. The road outside is cracked and scattered with gravel. The wind moves trash along the curb. I listen. No voices. No footsteps. The sky holds a bit of light behind a sheet of cloud. The first infected of the night stands near a mailbox with his head bent at a strange angle. His jaw hangs wrong. He turns a fraction when my boot scuffs. I step on a valve stem attached to a string. It pulls a little bell under a bucket by the fence. The sound pulls him 2 steps more. I stab under the chin and push until the point locks against bone. He saggers and folds. I drag him behind a hedge. I do not linger. 2 houses down, I find fresh footprints on dust, not infected. Boots, deep heel strike, someone heavy or carrying something. The prints cut across the lawn, then back to the street. I follow them to the hardware store that sits at the edge of the neighborhood. The front door is chained. A side window is cracked open with a rag stuffed along the edge. Inside smells like paint and rubber. I slip in. Shelves hold screws and nails and hand saws. I take a roll of duct tape, a pack of utility blades, and 2 small propane canisters. The register sits open with no money in it. On the back wall, a pegboard holds a handful of heavy-duty rat traps. I take those too. I leave a little note in pencil on the counter. Dean, I owe 2. It is not a rule, just a habit. On my way out, I spot a man kneeling near the back door with a backpack open. He turns, and his eyes go wide. He reaches for a pistol tucked under the strap. I do not speak. I step, hook the pistol with the steel rod and yank. He keeps hold. He pulls and it slams into the doorframe and discharges. The shot is loud and sharp. My ears ring. He scrambles to run. I hit his shin with the rod. He collapses. He gasps and tries to crawl. I look at the backpack. Cans of peaches, a jar of vitamins, a kid's photo folded into a plastic sleeve. He curves to look back at me. He says he has a child up the road. He speaks fast. I listen and watch the door. Infected will come. I cut a strip of duct tape and wrap it around his hands. I tighten it until he stops struggling. I'll send someone, I tell him. He spits a curse at me and tells me I am a thief. He is not wrong. I drag him behind bags of salt and lock the back door from the outside with a chain and a bolt. I wedge a broom under the knob. I run. 2 infected shamble from the far end of the alley, drawn by the sound of the gunshot. Another 2 turn the corner by the dumpster. I scoop a beer bottle off the ground and throw it into a trash pile to my left. The glass cracks. All 4 change direction toward the noise, slow and steady. I cut a path behind their backs and slip over a low fence into a yard that used to hold a swing set. The air carries the sour smell of rot. I pick up speed. I climb the wall ladder and slide back through the storm drain. The grate goes back into place. I move inside the settlement with dirt on my hands and fresh blood on my coat. Meredith waits by the radio table. The guards are tight and silent and watchful. She asks what I found. I tell her 1 scavenger with supplies, alive, secured in the hardware store. I give the location. I tell her infected are moving through the trash lot behind the alley. She asks if the scavenger is armed. I nod. You left a man with a gun taped to his hands, she asks. He fired already, I say. He will not again. She makes a small sound in her throat and looks at me like she is measuring what I am and whether it fits her plan. We will send a team at dawn, she says. Leave it. I leave it. Dean brings me a tin cup with tea that just tastes like hot water and a leaf. He sits on a crate and stares at his boots. You're colder, he says. I am alive, I answer. He looks up. That is not the same thing. I do not argue. He asks about the first months after we split at the camp. I say I hid by day and moved by night. I say I took what I needed. I say I stopped helping strangers after the pharmacy group died because I waited to warn them. He says nothing. I wait for judgment that does not come. He reaches into his pocket and hands me a little key on a string. Room 12, he says. Bed, trunk, and a spot on the south tower if you want it. I loop the string around my neck. The metal is warm from his hand. Sleep comes in thin slices. When I doze, I see the bridge and the woman who begged me to help. Her leg was broken. Her backpack was empty. A gas station burned down the road and ash drifted in the air. I checked her pack anyway because habit keeps me alive. I left her there. I did not run. I walked. The memory sits in my head without any drama. Not a story. Just a choice on a road that had too many. Morning brings a list of tasks. Someone needs a hand moving a generator. Someone else needs help cutting pipe for the irrigation line. I help until noon and then ask for the south keys. Meredith signs me out and points to a stack of hand-drawn cards with ration marks. You earn, you eat, she says. No special deals. I say, I am not here for deals. She gives me a look that says she hears something under my words. She leaves it alone. The gate protocol is strict. 2 guards on the inner latch, 1 on the outer. A third with a shotgun stands offset with a clear shot through the gap. I go out with a rope coiled on my shoulder and a bag of steaks. I count 3 sets of deer prints on the street and 1 set of fresh human tracks in sneakers. The sneaker tracks go northeast. I go south. I lay wire at ankle height between 2 low posts and hang 4 cans on it. I scatter sand on the asphalt to catch prints. I mount a car horn on a board and wire it to a trip pedal that I jam under a broken curb. Anyone running blind will set it off. It will pull infected from the right, not the left. The kill lane on the left has a narrow choke that we can sweep from the slits. I log the placements in a little book with a pencil stub. The page gets damp from my hand. 3 days pass. I settle into the rhythm. Out before dusk. Home at dawn. During the day I sharpen tools and cut more steaks and fletch bolts with duct tape veins. I do not talk much. I eat. I sleep in short drops and wake to any small noise. Night 4 brings a steady wind and little foot traffic. I take 2 infected quietly and mark a shallow grave behind the hardware store with a strip of blue tarp tied to a fence. That is only for me. No one else needs to know. Night 5, trouble rolls in. The sound hits first. Not an engine. A crackly echo of a voice amplified and flattened by cheap electronics. I climb the south tower and look over the wall. A pickup truck sits just out of clear rifle range in the street, headlights off. A bullhorn mounted on the roof. A man with a cap stands in the bed and holds the microphone. "We know you're in there," he says. "We want food. We want medicine. You bring it out. We let you be. You stay quiet. We find other ways." He repeats it. A second voice laughs into the mic and claps. I shift my scope and check silhouettes. I count 5 around the truck. There will be more somewhere. Guards assemble at the slit positions. Dean moves along the wall with his hand up in a calm-down gesture. Meredith arrives with 2 runners. She speaks low and clear. No shots, no negotiations, no reply. We keep our power off on the south side. They get bored. They leave. The loudspeaker keeps throwing junk words against the wall. A woman at the mic now. She calls us selfish. She offers trade that is not trade. I watch the tree line because that is where trouble likes to come from. When the noise drags eyes to the street, I see a flicker at the edge of the brush. A man on his belly with a scope. I slide my sight past him and look for a second. There, another pair by the drainage ditch. I whisper to Dean. They're flanking. He nods without looking. He murmurs along the hand line, and the tower on the north side shifts a man to cover the ditch. I trace the tracks in my head. Mud on boots. Water prints on asphalt. I wait for a shot from the ditch, but it does not come. The bullhorn shuts off. The truck idles. Then it pulls away slow. No lights. The men in the brush do not show. We hold. We do not chase, Meredith calls it. Hold positions 10 more, then stand down. I use that 10. I slide into the tunnel and out the far side. I move in the ditch with my belly in the cold water and my elbows on slime. The wind throws leaves across the surface. I find one of the flanking pairs by smell first. Cigarette smoke. It pushes through the wet air with a sharp edge. 2 men lie out behind a hedgerow. One whispers, "He'll hit the south gate tomorrow night." The other says, "He always does. He's got to." They mean me. Good. I put the steel point against the back of the smoker's head and push. The second man turns and chokes on a shout. I cover his mouth and pull him by his hair until his throat bends wrong. He thrashes. I hold him until he goes slack. I drag both into the tall grass and let the ditch water wash away footprints. I take a moment to listen. No alarm. I move again. The truck goes to ground at the motel near the highway. The sign out front has missing letters. The pool is empty and full of bottles. Cars circle the building with their doors removed to serve as firing slots. A generator coughs and then catches. Light from a single string glows behind a curtain. I sit under a broken satellite dish and watch the pattern. A woman carries a box from one room to another. A man with a shaved head checks guns at a table. Another man drags a pallet of something heavy. I wait. Bennett steps out of a room, and I stop breathing for a second because I saw him die once. That is how my brain tags him. He is not dead. He has a bent nose and a scar that runs from ear to cheek. He stands in the light like he owns the place. He sets his hand on the bullhorn. He laughs at something the shaved head says. I taste copper. I do not move for a long time. Memory and present overlap. Him in the old military camp. Him with a clean uniform and that smug grin. Him ordering a line to fire over the heads of civilians. Him calling me a thief when I shoved a case of bottles into my pack. Him pinned in the corridor that night when the fence went down. Infected pressed into the doorway and screaming. I dragged Dean out. I shut the door. Bennett's eyes met mine through the glass porthole. I did not open it. He did not die. Fine. I stay until full dark and then crawl under the cars and cut the generator fence with the wire cutters. My fingers go numb. I lay a propane canister on its side near the muffler and tape a utility blade upright as a crude puncture spike. I strike a flint wheel and light a short wick I made from cloth. It begins to burn down toward the canister seam. I stand and walk away without looking back. I pass the pool and slip into the laundry room through a broken pane. It smells like mildew and dust. I crouch behind a row of machines and wait. The generator pops. One small cough, then a deeper thump. The string light goes black. Voices climb and drop and then rise again. Feet run. A man yells to get water. Another curses that there is no water pressure. I move room to room in the dark. A bed frame scrapes. A chair tips. I slide along the wall and put a bolt through a man's chest without a sound. I reload by feel. In the next room, a woman swings a bat in the darkness. It clips my shoulder and sends heat down my arm. I step inside her arc and push until she hits the wall. She rakes my face with her nails. I slam the steel point into her gut and hold it there until her weight sags. No words, just work. Fire licks the curtains. The generator catches and throws a tongue of flame into the grass. Heat climbs into the roofline. Glass cracks. A dog barks in the distance, then stops. I step into the hallway and finally face Bennett. He holds a shotgun at low ready, muzzle toward the floor to keep the blast from the ceiling. Smart. He recognizes me fast. His grin shows teeth through soot. Knew you'd show, he says. I stay still and keep my hands low. My crossbow hangs empty. My steel is wet. We stand in stale smoke and stare each other down. He says, "You left me once. Don't run this time." I say, "You got out. Good for you." He snorts. "You always cut your losses." I say, "I cut threats." He moves first. I dive and feel pellets rip plastic from the dryer next to my head. The shotgun pumps. I roll and kick his knee. He drops to one leg and swings the barrel. I slam the steel into his thigh and it bites. He yells. I grab the shotgun and we fight over it like idiots until we both know the fight is going to end with noise we cannot afford. He headbutts my cheek. My vision flashes. I bite the inside of my mouth. I let go, step back, and draw my lever rifle with the last 3 rounds. He sees the move and pulls the shotgun to his shoulder. We fire at the same time. His blast tears plaster. My shot hits him low. He folds and drops the gun and clutches his stomach. He curses me in a way that belongs in a different life. He says he will come for the wall. I say nothing. I pull a flare from my pocket and strike it. Red light fills the hallway. I toss it into the lobby where flames already climb the drapes. Outside, moans rise from the dark like a bad chorus. The flare tells them where to go. That is on purpose. I step into the laundry room again and push the door closed. Through the small glass, I watch Bennett drag himself across the floor toward the exit. His hands leave streaks. The first infected stumbles into the doorway, drawn by the flare and the smoke. Bennett tries to stand, but his leg shakes and the floor takes him down again. I turn away. I do not need to watch the rest. I leave through the rear window and move down the alley behind the motel. My cheek throbs. My side stings where the woman hit me with the bat. The air holds a heavy taste of burnt plastic. I keep the wall to my right and the ditch on my left and jog until the motel is aglow behind me. I switch to a walk when my breathing turns loud enough to hear in my own ears. I do not want that noise. A single infected shuffles out of a side yard and reaches with both hands. I step past and hook my foot behind his ankle and pull. He falls. I plant the steel through the eye and finish it. I move. At the south wall, I ring twice. Pause. Ring once. The latch opens. Inside, the guards look at me without expression. One offers a rag. I wipe my face. Meredith steps out from the dark. "Report," she says. I give her the basics. The motel is done. The truck is probably gone or burned. The loudspeaker group will not be back. She studies me. "You set a fire." "Yes." "You drew infected into the area." "To them, not to us." She holds my eyes for 3 long seconds and nods once. "We keep watch anyway." She turns to walk off, then looks back. "Thank you." I do not answer. Dean waits on the tower with a bottle and 2 cups. "You done?" he asks. "Done enough," I say. He pours. The drink burns and settles warm. We sit on the edge of the platform with our boots dangling. He says, "You keep acting like the world is still moving at a sprint. Inside here we are trying to make it walk." I swallow and stare at the dark beyond the wall. Walking gets you eaten. He shakes his head. You were not like this before. I drink again. Before I had the luxury to pretend people deserved more chances than danger allowed. He does not argue. He knows what I mean. He also hates hearing it said out loud. Next day, I help bury 2 infected that piled up against the east alley, and I reinforce a kill lane with rebar set through cinder blocks. I build a small platform in a tree that faces the creek and stash a coil of line, a blanket, a tin of jerky, and a cheap radio wrapped in plastic. That is for me only. If the wall falls, I want a perch and a backup path. I do not tell Dean. I do not tell Meredith. That is not betrayal. That is insurance. A trio of newcomers arrive at noon with hands up and a white cloth on a stick, a woman, a boy, and a man with a cut on his forehead. We put them through the tent. No bites. One of the guards finds a knife in the boy's boot heel. The boy looks down and refuses to speak. Meredith assigns them to sanitation for a week, and then kitchen if they pass. The woman thanks her too many times. The man stays silent. I watch from the shade. When the man sees me, his eyes hold mine long enough that I almost step forward. I do not. I have my own list. That night is quiet until a flash of light stutters from the northeast hills, and a heavy boom rolls across the roofs a few seconds later. Not a bomb, a transformer. The sky glows for a moment, and then dark comes back. The radio table crackles as Elena tries a check with the other post we trade with once a week. No answer. We mark it on the board for morning. Dean walks the wall twice and ends up on my tower. You sleeping at all? He asks. Enough, I say. He sighs and leans his elbows on the rail. I miss the neighbor fights about hedges, he says. I grin at that. It is a dry thing that does not reach my eyes. Hedges kept folks busy, I say. Now the hedges are potatoes. He nods. That is our joke. It does not feel funny. 3 days after the motel, a smoke column shows to the west. We send 2 scouts at dawn. They report back that the strip mall burned to the slab. The raiders are gone, either dead or spread thin into the bushes. At noon, Meredith posts a note. Extra rations for anyone who brings in roofing tar or intact nails. Building season never stops. Half the neighborhood shows up with sacks and buckets and stories about where they tore this or that from a school or a shed. Work keeps minds from chewing on the wrong things. My wrong things chew anyway. I take longer patrols, farther out. I start laying snare lines across narrow footpaths with wire from old fences. I dig a pair of shallow pits and line them with broken chair legs angled to trap ankles. I string glass bottles on lines along the creek so any movement rings clear. Little measures, nothing fancy. I leave no obvious sign that a man built them. I move through my grid like a fox that never stops checking its prints. One evening, just before full dark, I spot a woman standing still in the middle of the road a quarter mile out. She holds a bundle to her chest. She does not sway. No blood that I can see. I keep to the shadows and close the distance until I can see the bundle is a baby or a wrapped set of clothes. Her eyes are wide but not empty. She looks at the wall and then at me, and then back at the wall. She calls out that she needs water and a doctor. I do not move into the open. I ask where she came from. She points toward the highway. I ask to see her arms. She lifts her sleeves. Clear skin. I ask to see the inside of her mouth. She opens wide. No black gums. No broken teeth. I scan the roofs. No one else shows. This is where the person I used to be would walk out. This is where the person I am now keeps the rifle level and his feet in cover. I toss a water bottle into the street from behind a fence. It lands near her feet. She flinches and steps back. She looks down at the bottle and then at me, and then at the wall again. She kneels, picks it up and holds it toward the bundle. The bundle does not move. The hair rises on my arms even without any chill in the air. I step 2 paces into view and keep my sights on her midline. Put the bundle down, I say. She says she cannot. I ask why. She says it is dead. She says she carried it for too long, because she did not want to set it down. Where the ground was dirty, she keeps her voice plain, no tears. The air feels thin. Set it by the curb, I say. She does. She steps back with her hands open and palms out. I walk forward 3 steps and see the small face. The skin is grey, not moving, not breathing. My throat closes, and I swallow hard. I hold the rifle ready and look at her arms again. Clean. She points to the wall. Please, she says. I look at the wall. I know what is behind it. Food, rules, people who will watch her every move, a bed in a tent, a week of quarantine, judgments whispered behind hands. It is still better than dirt alone. I whistle twice and Dean's head pops up above the parapet. He gets it fast. He sends a runner to the gate. I back away and keep the woman in view until the gate team arrives. They collar her with a soft strap that goes to the waist belt. It is not punishment. It is a safety measure. She does not fight it. She keeps looking at me, and then at the bundle on the curb. Can I take him? She asks. I shake my head and point to the sky. The smell will draw things we do not need near the gate. She wraps her arms around herself instead. The team leads her in. I stand there another minute and then I pick up the bundle and carry it to the ditch. I do not look at the face again. I place it down, cover it with a sheet I carry for burns, and pull dirt with my hands until it is not visible. I do not say words. I press the dirt so wind will not move it. Then I go wash my hands in the creek until my knuckles scrub clean. Inside, Meredith finds me by the pump. She says, "Thank you." I nod. She asks, "What would you have done last year?" I look at her and do not answer. She says, "I know what you are now. I am not asking to shame you. I am asking so I know how to use you." I say, "I would have opened the gate and brought her in myself. I would have told her she is safe and probably tried to find a soft place for her. The wrong people would have seen that and used it. They would have come with fake wounds and a story and a knife in the sleeve." Meredith nods slowly. "So you are teaching me to be like you?" "I am teaching you how I did not die," I say. She leaves it there. She starts to step away, then stops. "Jack," she says, quiet, not soft. "I do not need a speech. I need a list. What bent you this far? What rules came out of it? If I am going to aim you, I want to know the recoil." I lean against the pump cage. Water ticks in the pipe. The wind rattles a bit of tin. "You want the clean version or the one that keeps me up?" "The working version," she says. "Plain, no dressing." "Fine," I say. "Start with the first camp. Military tents, fences, food lines. A captain who believed a schedule could hold back an outbreak. He ordered warning shots over people's heads when the first panic hit. It worked once. The next time, the crowd did not stop. He fired into legs. It cleared the lane, sure, but it broke the place. Folks stopped listening. That night the southern fence sagged, and the infected pushed through. I grabbed Dean and ran. I heard kids yelling behind us. I did not turn back. I kept an arm on my brother and moved. I made a rule on that sprint that I have not broken. If the person next to me is mine, I do not let go. Anyone else is later or never. That is rule 1. Meredith watches my face, not the ground. She does not write. She does not look away. Go on. 2 weeks later, I say, we slept behind a pharmacy with a group who seemed decent. They had a propane stove and a blanket hung for a door. A man there had a cough that sat wrong, and a woman kept rubbing her wrist like it hurt. I saw the bandage under her sleeve. She said it was a sprain. No discoloration on her face yet. I did not call it out. I wanted the heat for a night. Around dawn, the man staggered up moaning, and the woman started to seize. It went bad fast. I heard their friends shouting and the scrape of furniture. I took 2 cans, a first aid kit, and walked. I did not warn them. I told myself one thing that morning that stuck. If I am already a step late, I do not add my body to the pile. I pick a direction and go. Rule 2. Meredith's jaw works once. She does not step back. Keep going. Bridge outside the interstate exchange, I say. Woman with a broken leg. Backpack empty. She waved me over. I checked the pack anyway. I looked for a friend in the bushes. I saw no one. Fire down the road threw smoke across the lanes. It looked like a trap, even if it was not. Maybe it was real. I cannot prove it now. I walked. I heard her calling, and then nothing. I made a third rule. No solo rescues at choke points. Not on bridges, not in doorways, not in hallways. If I cannot secure both sides, I do not step into the pinch. Rule 3. Meredith's eyes are flat. Not hard, just set. All right. Freight yard, I say. I tried being human for a bit. A group pulled me into a boxcar, said they had stew in a safe spot. They gave me tea that tasted like medicine. I woke with my hands tied to a pipe and my shoes gone. They wanted my pack list and any stash locations. I do not break to pain, but I do not pretend I am made of rock either. I played slow and dumb, said I had nothing. A kid in their group left a box cutter on a shelf. Bad habit. I got it between my fingers and cut the tape, then used the blade to slice the webbing of the leader's holster while he leaned in to gloat. I bolted, dropped the rolling door, and jammed a length of rebar through the track. He pounded and screamed. I did not open it. I took my shoes back off a nail and left before his friends regrouped. Rule 4. I do not drink or eat anything I did not cook or watch being cooked, and I do not sit with my back to a wall I did not check. Good rule, Meredith says. Ugly day. House with the blue porch, I say. Rain day. I needed a roof. I knocked once, twice. No answer. I used a mirror to look under the door and saw boots on the inside mat and a line of light under the interior door. Someone was waiting on the angle. I made a small fire in a trash can on the porch and pushed smoke under the eave. A man coughed and shifted. His muzzle flashed against the glass when he fired blind. I stepped off the porch, cracked a side window, slid in, grabbed a canteen from the counter, and left him to his plan. That day, I wrote down in my head that I do not push into a room where someone else holds the clock. I set the clock or I do not go. Rule 5. Meredith does not blink. You are describing simple fieldcraft. It turned me mean, I say. Next one will explain the rest. She nods once. Say it. Parking garage by the hospital, I say. I heard a baby crying from a stairwell. It cut through the concrete. I moved fast without thinking, then stopped. The sound looped identical every 10 seconds. A recording. Phone in a bag. 2 men were set behind a Mazda, crouched, waiting for any fool with a soft spot to come running. I changed levels, came up behind them, and watched for a minute. One checked his watch, the other picked his nails. I put a bolt into the first and a brick into the second. I kept the phone and the file so I would remember the trick. I made a rule about bait noises, and a rule about helping only on my terms in a place I control. That is 6 and 7. After that, I looked at anyone with clean shoes and a perfect story like a problem. That is where the harsh parts set in for real. Meredith's voice stays level. You became a filter. I became a door with a deadbolt, I say. Then came a family on the road. Man, woman, teenage girl. They waved us down when I still had Dean with me. We gave them water and a can of beans. We walked away. I checked behind us later and saw the man talking to a different group near a billboard. He pointed down the road and made the shape of a rifle with his hands. He did not see me in the ditch. He was setting us up. I told Dean to stay put, cut off through the brush, and circled behind the group. I fired a warning shot into the dirt between the man's boots, enough to shower him with dust, nothing more. They scattered and lost interest. We walked the other direction. Dean hated me for a day. He said I was turning into a border guard instead of a person. I said I would rather be a border guard than a picture on a wall. He cooled. That is when the split started between us. Not when we came back here. It started out there, step by step. Meredith rubs her thumb against the pump cage. What else? Old motel with a busted sign, I say. A woman and an older man offered trade. Candles, batteries, 2 knives. The knives had brittle blades. The batteries were dead. The candles were all paraffin that smoked like tires. I flagged it and tried to walk. The old man pulled a gun and told me to drop my pack. I tossed it like I was giving up, then ran at him while it was in the air. He fired, missed wide. I took the gun and broke it on the step. I left them sitting there and did not look back. I wrote another rule. If the opening move is fraud, the next move is force. Leave. Do not teach. Do not sermon. Leave. Meredith's eyes lift to the sky for half a second and come back. You have more. 4-lane boulevard, I say. I set a noise line with 2 hubcaps and a nail. Infected followed the rattle like a dog after a dinner bell. A man was dragging a cart half a block up. He saw the herd swing and panicked. He tried to hide under a car. His cart tipped and spilled. He shouted at me to help. I had the numbers to get him out if I had another person. I did not. I led the herd across the median. I kept it off me and off the path to our target house. He screamed until he could not. I found a jar of peanut butter in his cart after. I ate half that night and hated the taste. I did not waste it. That one took anything soft left in me and put it in a box. I made a rule. I do not throw away our lives for strangers on a street with no cover. That was 8. Meredith lets out air slow. And when you lost Dean? Same night the camp fence went, I say. But a second split came later. Dean started talking about rebuilding. He wanted to help every face we saw. He wanted to try the church group, the school gym, the radio tower. I peeled off more and more. I did the night jobs. He did the day jobs. We were both right and wrong at once. When we set the rendezvous at our father's house, he still believed in lines and rules that fit inside a neighborhood meeting. I believed in tripwires and angles. The road made me into a tool. No history book in my head, just forward and finish. Meredith studies me like she is checking a beam for cracks. What about Bennett then? You knew him from the camp. You closed the door on him there. You lit him up at the motel. That is not just rules. That is personal. He stood in a uniform and smiled while he called civilians a line item, I say. At the breach, he used a girl as a shield to push through a corridor. She fell. He kept moving. I could have pulled him out from that door later. I did not. I shut it. When I saw him again in the motel, he was doing the same thing without a uniform. Same rule set. He just liked the power more without a patch on his chest. I do not do revenge. I do subtraction. He was a toxin in any radius. I removed the source. Call it cold. I call it cleaning a wound. Meredith's mouth tightens. Not disapproval. Decision. So the list under the list is this. You move for your own. You do not step into traps. You do not feed fraud. You cut poison. And you bury what cannot be saved without asking for permission to feel it. That last part, I say, and jerk my chin toward the creek. That is today's proof. I did not bring her boy inside because the smell would bring a crowd to the gate and start a chain we would not stop before dark. I did not walk away either. I put him down where the ground is quiet and pushed dirt with my hands, because she deserved more than a strip of road for a grave. That is the balance I can live with. If you want me to be softer, say it now. I cannot do it. And keep this place whole. I do not want soft, Meredith says. I want repeatable. I want you to tell me when you are going to light a building so I can lock a gate and move a watch. I want you to train 2 others on your traps so the knowledge sits in more than one skull. I want you at my table when I make a decision that needs your kind of thinking so I can hear the worst case out loud before I sign it. That is how I use you. You are not a ghost. You are a part. I stare at the pump handle. My hands smell like creek water and dirt. Then hear one more rule, I say. I never walk the same path home twice in a week. I never sleep in the same spot 2 nights in a row. And I never leave the wall without a plan to get back inside even if the gate is blocked. If you need me and I am outside, that is where I will be. Either above the creek on the branch hide or under the brick culvert by the playground. If I do not show by sunup after a noise, you pull back your patrols, not forward. You do not come looking. I will come to you, or I am gone already. Meredith nods once like a judge stamping a line on paper. Noted, she says. Train Elena and Kovac on the traps. Start tonight. And clean your face before kids see you. You look like a horror movie. I snort once. We all do, I say. She turns to go, then stops again. "One more thing," she says. "If that woman asks for a marker at the ditch, you put one up. We honor our dead, even the ones who do not have names here." "Done," I say. "I will cut a board from the pallet stack and paint it clean." Meredith finally leaves. The pump ticks. I rinse my hands again, even though they are already clean. The water runs cold enough to sting. I stand there until the ache in my knuckles fades. Then I go find Elena and the big quiet man who started on the north wall last week. I show them the bottle line, the ankle wire, the pressure plates with the brick drop, the way to set a car horn so it drags sound away from the gate. I make them repeat it until both can set each rig in the dark without fumbling. I drill where to stand, where not to stand, what to do if a kid runs into a line, how to bypass without making extra noise. No speeches, just steps. The woman moves through quarantine. She stays quiet and follows instruction and does not bring drama. She asks to see the little grave once. I take her at dawn when the air is still. She stands there with her hands in her pockets and her chin down. She does not cry. She says, "Thank you," in a voice without anything extra. That sits with me the rest of the day like a weight that does not go away when I sit down. 2 weeks after the motel, a different group tests the wall. No loudspeaker, smarter. 3 men cut wire near the back of the school and try to circle the tire barricade. I hear the bottle line ring and I am already moving. I catch them at the corner of a brown fence. The first never sees it coming. The second does, and throws his hands up before I swing. The third runs toward the creek. I let him go and focus on the one with his hands up. He says he did not know this was occupied. I point to the painted warnings and the bells and the trenches, and the fact that any person with eyes can tell this place is not free. He says he was hungry. I believe him. That does not give him a pass. I strip him of his knife, his can opener, and the cord from his belt. I tell him to keep walking east and not look back. If he looks back, I will put a bolt in his spine. He believes me. He shuffles away without a word. I watch until he is a speck. I turn to the first man on the ground and search his pockets for a map. He has nothing. I drag him into the ditch. The water moves around his shoulders. He does not move at all. I stand there 5 slow counts to see if anything in me reacts. Nothing useful does. Dean sees the fresh scrape on my cheek at dinner. He sets down his spoon and says, "You are not a wall. You are a man." I say, "Men break." He says, "Walls break too." We stare at each other. Meredith sits across from us and pretends not to hear. A kid drops a cup and everyone flinches. Quiet returns. I finish my bowl and push back my chair. "I have the South tonight," I say. Dean shakes his head, but does not follow. There is nothing to add. On the south path, I run into Eleanor adjusting a bell line. She asks if I will show her the silent takedown I use. I show her grip, angle, and where to aim to avoid unnecessary mess. She asks blunt questions and nods at blunt answers. She says, "You operate alone because you do not want to become responsible for someone else." I say, "I operate alone because I move faster alone." She smirks. Same sentence. We part without any awkward goodbye. I like her. She does not waste air. The weeks settle into a pattern that feels stable only because we are tired, and any routine feels like a gift. We trade with a farmstead 3 miles north for eggs and firewood. We fix a leak in the pump line. We put a new layer of junk along the western wall where the tires slumped. A set of solar panels from a dead RV goes up on a garage roof. The light over the watch table works 1 extra hour each night. It feels near to a normal evening. Then a boy screams by the east gate, and the whole place jumps. We run. A mutated form has pressed into the gap we use to pass buckets. Tall and thin with long arms, moves quicker than the shufflers. It twists its head with a twitchy motion and rasps. The boy tripped setting a bucket down, and the thing grabbed his sleeve. Eleanor gets there first and jams a spear through the opening. It bites the wood and snaps at the air. I shoulder in and wedge my steel through the mesh and push hard. It goes down on 1 knee. Another spear comes in from the right and pins the chest. We do not take chances. 2 more spears, then 1 through the skull. The boy shakes where he stands. He is not bleeding. He is fine. We walk him away and tell him to breathe. He nods, and then laughs once in that broken way that means he almost went over the edge but did not. He will be okay. Meredith orders a redesign of the pass-through. She calls for thicker mesh and a sliding block that can be clamped from both sides. I draw a quick sketch of a feed door like an old farm bin, and we build it in an hour. That is the difference between a place that holds and a place that fails. Not courage, patches, fixes, work. A month after I killed Bennett, I find a mark on the asphalt near the motel ruin. Someone dragged a stick through fresh dust and drew a circle with a line through it. That was a sign at the military camp for a sweep done and clear. I kneel and touch it with my fingertip. It is 3 hours old at most. I follow faint prints into a side yard and find a small bundle of cloth tucked under a barbecue. Inside the cloth sits a little square of paper with 4 lines. South Gate, midnight, truck, no horns. That is not meant for me. That is meant for a man who is not alive anymore. I stare at the note until the letters blur. I burn it with a match and grind the ash into the dirt. I backtrack and erase what I can. Midnight, the truck comes anyway. Not the bullhorn truck. A different one with the same cab shape. It rolls slow from the west. Lights off. The engine barely a hum. It stops short outside the line of cans I strung. The doors open and 3 men slide out. One whispers. I do not hear the words. I pick up a rock and toss it into a bush on the left where I hung a jingling line. Cans ring. The 3 men turn their heads to the sound and crouch. I step out of shadow behind them and set my crossbow on the hood. Drop it, I say. The one closest to me lifts his hands. The second pulls his pistol slow and wide to test me. I do not give tests. I put a bolt into the center of his chest and he drops. The first freezes. The third runs. I do not chase him. I move around the truck and kick the pistol away from the second without looking at his face. The first says, Bennett said this was open now. I say, Bennett is done. The first swallows and nods like a man working a problem that has no answer. I was told to bring pills, he says. He opens a duffel with 2 bottles of antibiotics and a stack of small bags filled with loose tablets. Not all are what the labels claim. I pick one up and shake it. Trade and poison, I say. Great business. He tries a little smile and then lets it die. He wanted your food, he says. That was always the plan. I tell him to walk away slow and never bring truck or pills near here again. He goes. I haul the dead one into the ditch and push mud over him with my boot. The water takes the silt away and leaves a smooth surface. Dawn drags a thin light over the roofs. Dean meets me at the pump with a bad mood. He heard the shot. He says, You made the call again without asking. I say, There was no time to ask. He bristles. There is always time to ask. I look at his hands. They are clean and steady. Mine are not. I say, I will not ask permission to stop a breach at the gate. He says, You are not a lone ranger out there. I say, I am the reason First Light is quiet again. That lands hard. He takes a step back like the words had weight. He drops his eyes. I hate this version of you, he says. I know, I answer. The words hurt both of us, and neither of us pushes them away. Meredith calls a meeting that afternoon, short and sharp. No more solo responses at the wall, she says. Pairs only, clear line, clear comms. She does not look at me when she says it. I raise a hand out of respect for the rule of the room. Pairs slow me down, I say. We are choosing slower over dead, she says. I stare at her. She does not blink. I nod and sit down. Later she steps into the shadow next to the pump and says, I meant it, but I also meant thank you. I say, I heard both. Elena volunteers to run with me at night. She moves quiet and keeps up. We clear a set of houses 2 blocks away. We find a basement with sacks of rice, all chewed through by rats. We find a closet with 3 dusty suits that fit no one. We find a kid's room with a calendar that ends on April with a circle around a school play that never happened. We take what works and leave the rest. We talk about nothing that matters. It is easy. On the way back, a fast form bursts from behind a van and grabs Elena's sleeve. Its jaw opens too wide. She jerks back hard, tears her cuff, and plants a boot in its knee. I stab twice. She breathes through her nose and nods once to steady herself. "I'm fine," she says. We keep moving. The season shifts. Nights run colder. The wind carries dry leaves under the bus frames, and they scratch against metal. The wall creaks at joints when the temperature drops. We add a layer of tarp to the chicken cages. We build a little stove in the clinic out of a steel drum. We raid a school for books to use as insulation in a wall we are trying to thicken. Everything goes to function. Nothing goes to pretty. No one complains. We do not have extra breath for that. One morning, Dean catches me in the old house that used to be ours. He keeps his hat in his hands and turns it. Old habit when he is about to ask for something. "I want you to eat dinner with me once a week," he says, "at a table, with a plate. We will talk about things that are not traps or ration cards. I want to remember you are my brother." I say yes, even though my first reaction is to cut it off. He sets Wednesday. He says he will cook something worth chewing. I say I doubt it. He gives me a look that says small brother joke, yes, but also this matters. Do not blow it off. I promise I will show up. Wednesday, he makes a casserole with pasta and dried tomato and some meat that could be squirrel or old goat. I do not ask. We sit at a table in a room with a window that looks out at the wall. He talks about a kid learning to weave cord from grass. I talk about a rusted tool I cleaned that now opens cans better than the old opener. He tells a stupid story about a rooster that tried to fight a wheelbarrow. I laugh for real, and it feels strange, and good, and dangerous. He sees it and smiles. Then he says, "You could sleep in a bed like a human most nights." I put my fork down. I say, "I sleep where I can leave fast." He looks down at his plate and then back up. "I know," he says. We clear dishes in silence and return to our posts. The world does not care about our little try, but I do. On a patrol 2 nights later, I stumble on a man sitting in a lawn chair in a yard with a broken fence. He holds a bottle and looks at the stars like he is at peace. He hears me and says, "You from the wall?" I say maybe. He says, "You hunt out here?" I say yes. He nods. "Then you will know this already. There is a woman 2 streets over who goes house to house and takes what she wants from the dead and the living. She leaves the dead in piles. She walks with a limp." I ask why he is telling me. He says, "I cannot sleep inside my own house because of the stink from what she did near my porch. I want my air back." He is not wrong. I head that way. I find her near a garage with an overturned freezer. She is thin and strong, with a bad knee that clicks when she steps. She watches me like I am a problem she needs to solve. She carries a long screwdriver and a bag of bracelets that jingle when she moves. She smiles in a way that is not friendly. "You the wall man?" she asks. "Sometimes," I say. "You going to tell me I cannot take what I earned?" she asks. "You earned it by scaring people into handing you their last clean blanket," I say. She shrugs. "Scare is cheaper than bullets." I nod. Then I step in and take the screwdriver from her grip and slam her back into the freezer and pin her arm with my knee. She spits and tries to bite. I pull a rag from my pocket and stuff it between her teeth. I tie her hands with cord and carry her over my shoulder toward the man in the lawn chair. He stands when he sees me. "Not my yard," he says. "I do not want that in my yard." I change course to the ditch. I set her down where the mud holds. "Walk," I say. "East, away from us. If you come back, I will drop you in a hole and let the smell take your windows." She glares at me with a stare that promises future trouble. I hold it until she looks away first. She walks. I watch until the dark hides her. I do not feel proud. I feel like a janitor who dragged a bag to the curb and knows the wind will split it later. A day later, we hear a rumor from the farmstead that a large herd is moving south along the river. We plan a redirect with sound and light. The idea is to pull them to the highway median, where the barrier fence will split them and thin them. We set up drum fires and speakers on timers. We rig a horn in an old school bus that will honk in bursts. We set the triggers and move back. The herd shows near dusk, slow, thick, some with missing pieces, some fresh. The plan works for the first 100. The sound pulls them along the curve. Then a thunderstorm pushes in from the west and the wind shifts. The smell of us blows wrong, and they start turning toward the wall. Dean runs from post to post calling adjustments. Meredith stays planted by the radio table and keeps time counts. I sprint to the south lane and light a flare and toss it deep into the kill corridor. The herd pivots toward it like a tide. We drop bricks and poles and stab through the slots. We hold. The line wavers and then steadies. When the rain hits, it washes the blood into the gutters and the stink off the wall, and everything smells clean and false for 15 minutes. Then, the wet rot smell returns from the pile. We burn the heap in the morning. After that, the wall feels solid again. That will not last forever. I know that. I do not care about forever. I care about tonight and the next night, and the lights over the radio table and a plate on Wednesday, and the small grave by the ditch and the bottle line that rings when someone tries to sneak. I care about the way Elena nods once after a clean run. I care about Dean still having a steady hand when he sets a cup of tea near my elbow at dawn. He asks me one morning, "Do you want to be inside here, or do you only want to orbit?" I say, "I am inside while I keep the orbit clear." He rubs his jaw and says, "That sounds like something a man says when he is afraid to sit still." I do not answer. He is not wrong. Sitting still means the road catches up and makes me remember the pharmacy and the bridge and the door I closed with a man on the other side pounding his fists into the glass. I can carry those at a walk. I cannot carry them in a chair. A new hand-painted sign goes up by the gate. It reads, "We trade for clean water, nails, salt, soap." It also reads, "We do not take prisoners." Someone argued for more polite wording. Meredith did not bend. She leaves no space for misread. The sign does what she wants. People approach with hands up and clear goods. Trouble walks in the other direction. One last bit with Bennett sticks around me like smoke that does not wash off. 2 weeks after the motel, I find a scrap of cloth caught on a bush near the ditch. It is from his jacket, a thread with a thin stripe. He did not drag himself far. He finished there. No one came to get him. Good. Still, I stand there longer than I should. The air is quiet. The ditch runs slow. I say nothing out loud. I move on. We double the size of the settlement by winter. New bus frames, new lines of tires, new gardens pinned under plastic, a second water pump tied to the creek, a smokehouse made from cinder block and a door from a shed. It is not pretty. It feeds us and warms us. It also gives us blind spots and extended lines to hold. We stretch. We do not snap. On a late patrol under a flat grey sky, I spot something odd on the road. Chalk lines drawn across the asphalt, old but not rained out. 3 short marks, then a long one. Repeated. A code. We used to scratch that into sidewalks when we were kids. A way to mark a safe path through backyards when we wanted to sneak past the neighbors or dodge our father's truck coming up the street. I haven't seen that pattern in 15 years. No one else here would know it. I follow it, around a downed tree, through a yard full of rusted lawn furniture and a swing frame with no seats. It ends at a fence missing one board. I pull the board aside and see a bundle in a clear plastic bag, tied tight, kept clean. Inside, a box of nails, 2 stubby candles, and a hand-drawn map of the neighborhood. Our wall is marked in blue. Patrol paths, gate routes, known blind spots, all sketched with notes. In the corner, a short message in pencil. "Stop waiting to be a ghost." I read it twice. The handwriting is Dean's. No question. I fold the bag back over and carry it in. No rush, no speech. I find him near the radio table. He's cleaning a toolkit. I hold the bag out. He takes it, reads the note, and looks at me. His face doesn't shift much, just a slight drop in his shoulders. Then he says, "You're strong out there. That's fine. But you're still my brother. I'm not going to sit around and pretend you'll just turn back into him one day. That man is gone. I get it. But I'm not letting go of the part that's still real, not while it's still walking around with my last name." It hits harder than I expect. Not shame, not anger, not joy, something else. Like realizing the fence you've been building to keep everyone out is also the one keeping you in. I nod once, because I don't know what else to do with it. Then I gear up. I step out before the sun drops. Dean doesn't follow, doesn't try to stop me, but he watches me go, just like he always has. Outside, the street curves around a delivery truck burned to the frame. I check my bottle line tied between two signposts. The cord slipped, so I fix it, cinch it tighter. One of the traps along the sidewalk fired early, probably a raccoon again. I reset it and mark the latch with a strip of chalk so I'll know it's fresh. Then I hear it. Sharp, irregular, half buried under the wind. Not human, one of the fast types. Off to the east, I crouch behind a mailbox and scan the tree line. Nothing yet. I move to higher ground, slow and low. A porch light flickers on a house with no roof. Empty. The door hangs open. I hold there, watching for movement under the eaves. No motion. I cut north, keeping to the side streets. The sky above the creek is pale and full of thin clouds. The water's still. I see my shadow stretch beside me for a moment in the reflection, then break apart on the surface. A frog croaks somewhere under the bank. It's the only sound that doesn't make me reach for a weapon. I adjust my pack, keep walking. There's no destination, just the rhythm, the weight, the stretch of space between the wall and whatever else is still out there. And for now, I'm still the one clearing it. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep the stories alive. For now, stay quiet, stay vigilant, and stay alive. Jack's Nightmares, signing off. Until next time, survivor.